Hi, Ellie. Thanks for joining me today. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Mike. It's lovely to be here.
Uh, Before we start asking about and talking about critical moment toughness, why don't you tell everyone who's listening a bit about you and your background?
So, I trained as a professional ballerina. I went to boarding school to do that from the age of 11, and I spent 8 years there before I graduated. And then I went on to CATS, and then the pandemic happened, and obviously took a little bit of time out. And now we're back, and the stages are open. I'm doing Phantom of the Opera on the West End.
Oh wow! What role are you doing in Phantom of the Opera?
Meg, if you've ever seen it, I'm not sure you'd recognise the name though.
Tell us a bit more about Meg's role. What's her character like?
um, she's fiery. She's supposed to be about 14, but she's the best friend of the leading lady. So her role plays a part in beginning the story, and she kind of opens up the story between the Phantom and Christine and sort of rounds it off at the end, but I won't tell you too much.
Okay, no
'Cause I'm
spoilers.
still trying to sell tickets.
And you said you went to boarding school to study ballet. Where was that?
That was in Richmond Park for 5 years, and then Covent Garden for the last 3.
Oh, Covent Garden as well.
Yes.
Is that, and that's with the Royal Ballet School?
Yeah, the Royal Ballet School that was.
Was there any particular approach to performance that you found the Royal Ballet School had? Are they quite light on mentoring and support for performance, or are they actually quite developed in the way they help you to deal with stress? And because I imagine it's quite a stressful environment, high level ballet.
Absolutely. There was... to be honest, I think I was lucky that there was plenty of opportunity throughout the years to practice that. And we performed quite a lot, or we had assessments 3 or 4 times a year, different types of assessments, and we had again opportunities to perform. I think the big difference I saw as I went through the school is it definitely got better with the support aspect. When I first joined, it was sort of unknown that was even available to us, or well, it wasn't at that point, but I think in other sports it's very common for someone to have mental support because it's just as important as the physical aspect, but that wasn't really present in the early years, and it certainly developed and got better as I was in the later stages of the school, and it probably is even better now I've left, actually.
And how do you, moving on to the West End, is there support there, or because you're now an adult, you're expected to be more resilient and more able to perform?
I actually think what a lot of producers and shows as a whole are doing now is making sure that us, as performers, are absolutely able to get the support we need. And when I recently started my job on Phantom, the very first day, we had people from a mental health organisation come in to talk to us and said, we're here, we have the support, it's absolutely confidential, and I know that they drop in from time to time to the show, so that is available to us, which is brilliant. I think people are investing in that a lot more now.
The debate's certainly moved on, and awareness around mental health and stress and resilience has definitely evolved, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we spoke about this issue before we spoke, just about critical moment toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be a phrase that some of the people listening to today haven't heard of, but I was really interested in speaking to you as a ballerina and someone who's performing on the West End, because it is high level performance, but it's perhaps not what we might typically associate something like critical moment toughness with. What do you feel like? Well, firstly, what is critical moment toughness, and do you feel like you use that what you're doing day to day at the moment?
Probably not day to day now because I'm used to it, but I think a lot of people may not think that they face critical moments of toughness in their lives, but I think absolutely everyone faces it. For me, it's performing on stage, a high pressure moment, whether it be an important event or if it's an audition. But you know, if you work in an office and you have to stand up and give a presentation, or you get in the lift and the CEO walks in, it's those moments that you're put under pressure, and how you perform in them and how you are able to deal with that.
Right, and that's the toughness that enables you to perform. So how does that, if we can make that relatable to our listeners, how does that kind of feel for you when you're in those critical moments?
I think it's something that I've definitely gotten used to over the years. I'm still no expert. I think that's important to remember. But I think I've definitely learned through trial and error how to deal with it, basically. And you know, you can come up with your own strategies, or you can create a little game plan for yourself. But that is kind of a routine I've made for myself, whether it's in the month leading up, the year leading up, or 5 minutes before I enter the room.
So that self-awareness is really important to help you to deal with that. So it's really interesting. I've heard of the Olympic sprinters being interviewed before, and actually before they run their race in the Olympics or major championships. And I had one example of a sprinter who was asked, are you nervous going into the race, or were you nervous going into it? And they replied, no, I wasn't nervous, I was excited. And it's very much on that knife edge between being nervous and being excited. And many of the physical feelings that we feel, maybe before you go on stage for the first night of a show, are similar between nerves and excitement.
Absolutely, that's a really good point, actually, because a lot of people do say that the difference between successful people, and I'm sure it's not as black and white as this, but the difference between successful people and people who often fail is that they look at an opportunity. Oh, okay, I have to give a presentation today. This could go really badly, could reflect badly on everyone in the room. You know, I might lose my job. It could go that far. Or you could see it as, I've got an opportunity, I've got a moment to stand up in front of everyone, give a really great presentation. This could lead to something really positive in my future. Yeah,
I think that framing of how we frame a challenge is really important. Mm-hmm. And it offers, so my previous work worked a lot in prisons, but a lot of framing around whether something is a positive or a negative opportunity is really important. And if you can start to frame things as more of a positive, then it opens up opportunity where previously there may just have been challenge.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe you could tell me more about that.
Yeah. And so linked to critical moment toughness as well, just to kind of finish off, I guess. Another phrase that's used is anticipatory stress. Mm-hmm. And it's this concept that stress can build up in the workplace, just like these critical moments that you're talking about. And if we anticipate the stress and it builds up, then it can be quite difficult for people in normal workplace to deal with. So I quite like that linking between just thinking about critical moments and how everyday people in the workplace think about and anticipate stress. What kind of tips or advice do you use for coping with stress day to day, or if you know you've got something stressful coming up?
I think the most important thing that to do overall is to be prepared. I think if you know that you're going into that room and you have, whether it's, you know, you can write bullet points, you can write a script, you know what you're saying, if you are fully prepared, there is so much less room for error. And as well, I think if you think about your lifestyle leading up to it, you know, am I eating healthily? Am I getting enough sleep? It's a balance of everything. It's approaching it as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice there. And actually, Albrecht, who's done a lot of research on this, talks about when you have anticipatory stress in the workplace, sometimes the fact that you know this thing is in the future, you can build it up to bigger than it is. But actually, because it's in the future, you have far more control than something that you don't know is coming along.
That's a great point, actually.
Yeah. So are you off for another show tonight?
I am. I do. I need to leave in about 5 minutes.
What time? What time? So we've got you on the clock. What time do you start a show in the evening?
Start the show, curtain up at 7:30.
Right. Mm-hmm. And how long does the show run for?
I think it's about 2.5 hours, including the interval.
Oh wow! So and do you do that every day or?
Do that 8 times a week.
Wow! And I think that must just take enormous kind of determination to do that many shows a week.
Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes I have to just think, I'm getting to perform on stage and I'm not. It could be worse, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good point to finish on, that we should always count our blessings and be thankful when we are given these opportunities. So, Ellie, thank you for talking Critical Moment Toughness with us today, and it's a really interesting, useful contribution.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.